Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It's been a while, but we have got a lot in store for you all here today. In this video, I will show you all you need to know about what happens in this timeline, starting with the 1989 Cup Series, and then 1990 and 1991 for all three Busch, IROC, and Cup Series. I have previously shown the silly season changes for 1989, and you can check that out in the 1989 preview video I made. Without further ado, let's start off with the 1989 Daytona 500. JD McDuffie scored the surprise pole as he and Bubba Nissen led the 42-car field to the green flag. To give a brief summary, the race ran green the entire race and ended with the field splitting into sections after green flag pit stops. In a race that had 50 lead changes among 26 drivers, we had a first-time winner in Dick Trickle. He gets his first career Cup Series win at the 1989 Daytona 500, as well as the first win for Jack Roush's team. He's a race car driver, his name is Dick Trickle, and he is now a Daytona 500 champion. Let's hop into some of the highlights for the 1989 season. In the third race of the season at Atlanta, it came down to the battle of the two best owner drivers in the Cup Series, Alan Kulwicki and Bubba Nissen. Both drivers stayed close at the end, fighting through lap traffic, but Alan Kulwicki was shuffled back with 6 laps to go, and Bubba Nissen went on to get the win. The very next race at Richmond, with 10 laps to go, Harry Gant was chasing his first win since 1985. But Michael Waltrip gets the push from Davey Allison to take the lead. But then with 6 laps to go, Sterling Marlin gets around both Davey Allison and Michael Waltrip to take the lead. Then 1 lap later, thanks to the lap car of Kyle Petty, Darrell Waltrip goes by to take the lead, who then gets blocked by Kyle Petty, giving the lead to Harry Gant once again. And Harry Gant would go on to break a 99 race winless streak to win at Richmond. Definitely a feel-good moment for Harry Gant. And the race after that at Darlington, on the final lap, Geoff Bodine was held up on the outside line by lap traffic, allowing Mark Martin and Alan Kulwicki to catch up, and Mark Martin was able to get around Bodine to take the win at Darlington. In the 7th race of the season at Martinsville, Darrell Waltrip snapped a 2-year winless streak to win at Martinsville, driving the number 11 for Junior Johnson. At the first Pocono race, it was Nissen versus Kulwicki Part 2. Bubba Nissen passed Alan Kulwicki with 2 to go to get the win at Pocono. So far, Bubba Nissen is up 2-0 on Alan Kulwicki this season. One week later, it was the return of Tim Richmond. He makes his first Cup start since 1987 in the number 51 for Hendrick Motorsports. He led at one point early on in the race, and then he would go on to finish in 4th. Very impressive return for Tim Richmond. We had a Cinderella story at the Pepsi 400 at Daytona. Mark Gibson, driving for Ken Allen as a one-off, passes Rusty Wallace and Davey Allison on the final lap to win at Daytona. his first career Cup Series victory. Speaking of first career wins, Mike Alexander won the second Talladega race. And by the way, Mark Gibson nearly stole the win again, but he got held up by a lapped car coming to the checkered. However, one of the biggest highlights of the season was the second race at Michigan. History was made. Move over, boys. Patty Moyes would go on to shock the world to win at Michigan, becoming the first ever female driver to win a NASCAR Winston Cup Series event. Definitely a huge breakthrough, not only for Patty Moyes, but for NASCAR as well. What could this mean for future female superstars in the sport? Rusty Wallace won the season finale at Atlanta Motor Speedway, but however, all eyes were on car number 3 as Dale Earnhardt went on to score his third NASCAR Winston Cup championship. Dale Earnhardt, driving for Richard Childress Racing, is the NASCAR Winston Cup Series champion for 1989. And here are the list of all the winners from the 1989 season, as well as the top 10 in standings. We are now officially running in the 90s. Welcome to 1990. To start things off, let's go through silly season and all the changes. To start things off, and I've brought it up before, Tim Richmond officially returns to full-time racing in the number 51 Exxon Chevrolet for Rick Hendrick, also promoting the movie Days of Thunder. Darrell Waltrip is still in the number 11 Ford for Junior Johnson. The Jackson brothers split into two teams, with Phil Parsons driving the number 1 for Richard Jackson, since Terry Labonte is still in the number 17 Tide Chevrolet for Rick Hendrick. Defending Daytona 500 champion Dick Trickle remains in the number 6 Ford for Jack Roush, with new sponsor Folgers, while Mark Martin still drives the number 15 Ford for Bud Moore. Dale Jarrett still drives for Cale Yarborough in the number 66. Ricky Rudd is also driving the number 88 for Dygaard still, while Jeff Bodine is still with Hendrick Motorsports. Ken Schrader is also in the number 90 for Junie Dunlevy, continuing their relationship with Red Baron as the sponsor. Mike Alexander is still in the 86 for Baker Schiff Racing. Jimmy Means goes back to being an owner-driver in his number 52. Greg Sachs has a new ride for 1990, as he moves over to a new team started up by Paul Newman with an alliance with Rick Hendrick. The team will field the number 18 Chevrolet with Hardee's as the sponsor. Morgan Shepherd remains in the number 75 as well. And for a bonus what if, Neil Bonnet does not have his life-threatening crash at Darlington, and he will drive the full season with the Wood brothers. Terry Schoonover and Lake Speed still drive for Marshall Family Racing. Patty Moyes' team was bought out by Team Sabco and Felix Sabates, and she will run a part-time schedule in the Winston Cup while racing full-time in the NASCAR Busch Series to truly get a chance to prove herself. Rick Wilson will drive for DK Ulrich full-time with Western Union as a sponsor, and two more big what-ifs for 1990 involve Rob Moroso and Rich Vogler. For Vogler, he died in a crash at Salem Speedway in June 1990, the night before his Cup Series debut at Pocono. You will be seeing him later in the 1990 season, and the plans were for him to run full-time in 1991. As for Moroso, he will run the full season for Rookie of the Year. And lastly, this will be the final season for Bobby Allison. Bobby Allison will retire at the end of the 1990 season at the age of 52. His plans after retirement include starting up his own Cup team in 1991 as well. I will also show a few minor Busch Series changes in just a moment. With silly season out of the way, here's a look at the 1990 schedule for both Winston Cup and Busch Series. I will point out that the Calder Park exhibition now takes place at the end of the season, the week after the season finale, as a fun international exhibition. The only other major change is the location of the All-Star race. Last season it was at North Wilkesboro. This year NASCAR is taking a different route with it. They're going to go left and right down to Daytona on the Daytona road course. let's hop into the 1990 Busch Series. To kick things off in the 1990 Busch Series season, Dave Resendez makes a last lap pass to go on and win at Daytona for his first ever Busch Series win. The very next race at Richmond, Tommy Ellis made a last lap pass to beat Bobby Labonte to score the win there. Not too long after at Darlington, Danny Marshall was leading, but he ran out of gas with 2 to go and had to pit, which gave Bobby Labonte his first win in the Busch Series. At the 8th race of the season in South Boston, Ted Musgrave, who replaced Sam Ard after he retired, made the pass for the lead with 2 laps to go as he got by Tom Peck, and he would go on to get his first career Busch Series win. Race 16 at Salem. It's a battle between soon-to-be husband and wife. Elton Sawyer was able to hold off his soon-to-be wife, Patty Moyes, for the win. And yes, in case you don't know, Elton Sawyer and Patty Moyes are indeed married and are still married to this day. Just a few weeks later at Myrtle Beach, a wreck happens with 5 laps to go, right as green flag pit stops were taking place. There was a ton of shuffling around, but when the dust settled, it was Jeff Burton, who also went on to get his first career Busch Series win as well. Race number 20 at Oxford, Elton Sawyer gets another win as he held off Ted Musgrave, Rick Mast, and Steve Grissom to do so. A couple races later at Hickory, Clifford Allison, Davy's younger brother, drove the number 61 for B.R. DeWitt and Richie Evans for a few races and nearly got his first win in this race. But Ted Musgrave was able to handle lap traffic much better than Clifford, and he got the win at Hickory. The 24th race of the season at Bristol ended in a thriller. Patty Moyes was working hard on the final laps to hold off Grant Adcox, but as they came to the checkers, Patty Moyes slipped to the outside in turns 3 and 4 to allow Adcox to just barely beat Moyes to the line to win at Bristol. Patty Moyes didn't have to wait too long, because that very next race at Darlington, she was able to get by Tommy Ellis on the last lap to get her second career win, and a much needed one, as she impressed a lot of fans with getting a win at a track like Darlington. Patty Moyes nearly won again the very next race at Richmond, but this time Steve Grissom got by her, coming to the white flag and the yellow flag to get his first career Busch win. Steve Grissom becomes the next driver to get his first Busch Series win. At the season finale at Martinsville on lap 77, Ted Musgrave, while in the lead, dumped Bobby Hamilton out of the way, and then a wreck occurred in the final 5 laps, and Ted Musgrave just managed to edge out Elton Sawyer back to the line. Ted Musgrave would win the race, but for the championship, Grant Adcox would take home the NASCAR Busch Series Championship for 1990. He was a dominant force this season, and he scores the championship. Just as a quick look at the IROC Series for 1990, I'll show you all the drivers that participated in it, and then I'll tell you who the champion is. In a series that gets dominated by the NASCAR drivers, this time it was Al Unser Jr. who scored the 1990 IROC Championship. Now we move over to the 1990 NASCAR Winston Cup Series, and we start with, of course, the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. There was footage recorded for Days of Thunder during this race, with Bobby Hamilton driving the number 46, Tim Richmond in the 51, and yes, even though it's a different Hardee's paint scheme, Greg Sachs's car was also recorded for some extra footage to work with. The dual races were crazy, as Mark Gibson and Larry Pearson both picked up the wins in their respective duels. There were some big names that missed out on the 500, but there were some bought out rides as you see here. Some of these drivers were able to secure spots, and they'll get the points they need to contribute towards the championship. Rusty Wallace and Ricky Rudd led the field to the green flag to begin the 1990 Cup Series season. The day ended early for Dale Earnhardt on lap 12 as he blew an engine, and he will be taken out of contention to win his third Daytona 500. The only caution came out on lap 41. As green flag pit stops began, everything began to stack up and causing Rick Wilson to spin Ricky Rudd to bring out the caution. Ricky Rudd was fine and he was able to keep going. In a race that had 50 lead changes among 26 different drivers, it came down to only a few to compete for the win, but it was 49-year-old Morgan Shepherd winning the 1990 Daytona 500 as he just beat out Rusty Wallace for the win. Definitely the biggest moment of his veteran career, and I'll show you the top 10 again as Ricky Rudd finished in 3rd, Mickey Gibbs finishing in 4th, Bubba Nissen in 5th, Mark Martin, who bought out Chad Little's ride, in 6th, Terry Labonte in 7th, Jeff Bodine also in a bought out ride in 8th, Larry Pearson 9th, and Rich Bickle rounding out the top 10 for the Daytona 500. Terry Labonte led the most laps with 7. By the way, if you are new to Sunday Night Lights, how I do the races are 30% for Busch, 35% for Cup, and 25% for IROC. I don't do them in the actual full length because these races would then take an absolutely long time to do. Early on in the season, Tim Richmond was back in victory lane, scoring the win at the first Darlington race that season, and it was an extremely popular win as many fans were thrilled to see Tim Richmond win again in the Winston Cup. At the 7th race of the season, Dick Trickle blew an engine while leading with 2 laps to go. This would end up giving the win to Bubba Nissen at North Wilkesboro. That very next race, Darrell Waltrip had a destroyed front end to his car, but amazingly enough, he was able to limp it home to a checkered flag and win at Martinsville. We saw even more first-time winners in the 1990 Cup Series season. Butch Miller won the first Talladega race with Travis Carter. Terry Schoonover got his first win at the first Michigan race. Brett Bodine then got his first win at the second Talladega race. And Derek Cope got his first win at the second Michigan race. One of the biggest breakout drivers for the 1990 season was Dick Trickle. He really broke out and went off, winning 7 races, including the Clash and the All-Star race, which took place at the Daytona Road Course. There was one driver in particular all season that truly dominated the standings, and there was no stopping him. He's been with this team since 1984, giving him a chance after picking up a surprise win in 1983, and finally, it pays off as Mark Martin scored the Winston Cup Series championship for 1990, giving Bud Moore his first championship as a car owner in the modern era. Mark Martin has proved he is a Cup Series star, and he could win more before his time as a Cup Series driver is done. This could also change the future of Bud Moore Engineering, as this team is definitely back on top amongst the Ford teams. And here's a final look at all the winners from 1990, and of course the top 10 in standings. And as a side note, Dale Earnhardt went on to win the Calder Park exhibition at the end of the season. And now we have reached 1991, and we have also reached a decade in the Sunday Night Lights timeline. Let's hop into the silly season for both circuits. We'll start with the Cup Series. To start things off, after spending a decade with DiGard Racing, Ricky Rudd moves over and replaces Terry Labonte at Hendrick Motorsports. The car is renumbered from 17 to 25. Gatorade also follows him over. As for DiGard Racing, after the departure of Rudd and Gatorade, DiGard Racing decides to close its doors, and they ended up selling their assets to Terry Labonte, who starts his own team for 1991, and he will pilot the new number 44 Kellogg's Chevrolet. Neil Bonnet leaves the Wood Brothers team and moves over to a second Richard Childress Racing car in the number 31, since he didn't have a scary crash in 1990. This allows Dale Jarrett to move over to the number 21 for the Wood Brothers. The number 86 Baker Schiff team also closes its doors, and Mike Alexander would go run in the Busch Series. Defending champion Mark Martin returns to the Bud Moore number 15 Motorcraft Ford with a new look. I want to give a special thanks to Starlight Alchemist for painting this car. Dick Trickle is also back in the number 6 Folgers Ford for Jack Roush. Tim Richmond continues to run the number 51 Exxon Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. Rob Moroso is still in the 20 for his father's team, and Rich Vogler will be running full-time in the Cup Series for Rookie of the Year honors in the number 55 Jasper Engines Ford. However, the biggest moment of silly season was Davey Allison. Davey Allison departed from Robert Yates Racing, as he has been in the Cup Series for about 5 years now and has yet to score a win. After a struggling 1990 season, he parts ways, and his father, Bobby Allison, decides to bring him into his own team to help boost his confidence. Mountain Dew also comes over to sponsor Davey in the new look number 12 Buick. What about the Robert Yates 28? Well, Robert Yates decides to bring in Jimmy Spencer over from Australian Racing, and he will be given a chance at a pretty solid ride. We'll see how these two drivers perform in their new rides in 1991. And also, looking at the Busch Series, Darrell Waltrip does pick up the number 17 from Rick Hendrick to run his own team with Western Auto as the sponsor in his Busch Series races. Richie Evans and B.R. DeWitt's team has Evans and Mike Alexander splitting the car for 1991. Alexander will also drive some races for John Linville as well. Grant Adcox is still in the 85 for Marshall, while Danny Marshall continues to drive the 83. Ted Musgrave, instead of being in the Cup Series, will run another full-time Busch Series season for Sam Ard. And lastly, a young man named Jeff Gordon will be running full-time in Busch this season. And I'll also note that Patty Moyes is running full-time in the Busch Series again for Sabco Racing. And once again, here's a quick look at the schedules for 1991. For the All-Star Race this season, it will be held in the Lone Star State of Texas at Texas World Speedway. Kicking off the 1991 Busch Series season, we start at Daytona where Kenny Wallace is on the pole with Jeff Gordon starting in second. On lap 8, Morgan Shepherd gets turned by Elton Sawyer and collects Harry Gant as well as Davey Allison. Then a bunch of others pile in, creating the big one. Things spread out after late green flag pit stops, and Mike Alexander, driving this race for John Linville, had the lead with Jeff Gordon way back in second. Then with 6 laps to go, Dave Resendez got held up by the lap car of Richie Evans and slammed into Tommy Houston, and around Resendez went. The race would end under caution, and after his Cup team was shut down from full-time racing, Mike Alexander is trying to pick up a full-time Busch Series schedule, and with this win, it will help him tremendously as Mike Alexander would go on to win the season opener at Daytona. Race 10 at South Boston, we had a great battle between Chuck Bown and Richie Evans. Evans, however, fell back late, which allowed for Tom Peck to catch up to Bown, but it was Chuck Bown who would go on to win the race. Race 15 at Illinois, Jeff Gordon did dominate the race as he was chasing his first Busch Series win, but Wonder Boy was passed by Jimmy Hensley in the closing laps, giving Jimmy Hensley the win. However, at race 24, Jeff Gordon would end up getting his first career win after the race ended under caution at Hickory. Lap 25, we saw Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon in their first encounter as they battled for the lead for about a good 10 laps as Jeff Gordon went on to win again. Race 26 at Darlington, Chuck Bown was running up front until Darrell Waltrip gets into him and turning him to bring out the caution. Dale Jarrett would go on to win the race. Heading into the final race of the season, it was an exciting championship battle between 3 drivers. Jeff Gordon came into Martinsville as the points leader, but Patty Moyes was back by 55 points and Bobby Labonte was back by 61. As crazy as these Martinsville races can get, anything could certainly happen. Bad news, however, for Bobby Labonte as he would DNF late in the race. Danny Marshall would go on to win the final race of the season. Patty Moyes finished in 5th, and Jeff Gordon finished 13th 1 lap down, and Bobby Labonte finished 35th with a DNF. And your Busch Series champion for 1991 is 19-year-old Jeff Gordon. He beats out Patty Moyes for the championship by just 24 points. This had a lot of people talking about Jeff Gordon potentially being the next big superstar for NASCAR. While Gordon will race in Busch again in 1992, it's going to be interesting to see when he gets up to the Cup Series because he's already proved himself a lot at just the age of 19. It's safe to say that Jeff Gordon is probably more hyped up at this point than he was in real life, and we cannot dismiss the performance of Patty Moyes. She has definitely broken a new barrier in NASCAR, and there's a good chance she could move up to the Cup Series as early as 1992. now move ahead with the 1991 Daytona 500 as I show you the start of the race in the very first lap. And in case you're wondering who's in that 46 car, that is open wheel legend Emerson Fittipaldi. As a bonus what if Emerson Fittipaldi attempted the Daytona 500, and surprisingly enough, he ended up winning his dual race. He is driving a one-off for Hendrick Motorsports, while Al Unser Jr. is also in this race, driving a one-off for Junior Johnson. There was a massive wreck early on in the race, but there were two drivers I have to pick out in particular. Ernie Irvan could not slow down in enough time and rammed into Bobby Hillin Jr., sending both cars flipping. Both Bobby Hillin Jr. and Ernie Irvan sustained injuries after their vicious wreck in the big one. Hillin would be ruled out for the rest of the season, while Ernie Irvan would be out for a while, eyeing a return perhaps after the Firecracker 400, and I will name the replacement of the 4 car here shortly. With 6 laps to go, there was a small pack contending for the win until lap traffic held most of them up. One lead lap car, however, got away, and that was Eddie Bierschwell, driving for his family team. Richard Petty and Mark Martin were lapped cars, and no one was able to catch him, as Eddie Bierschwell would shock the world and win the 1991 Daytona 500 for his first career NASCAR Winston Cup Series victory. And with the injury of Ernie Irvan, Eddie Bierschwell was called up to drive the number 4 car, since his family team didn't have much money to run more races. That very next week, Jimmy Spencer got his first career win at Richmond, driving the 28 for Robert Yates Racing in just his second race with the team. And then the week after that, Ricky Rudd snapped a 111 race winless streak at Rockingham in just his first handful of races with Hendrick Motorsports. This could finally be the breakout that Ricky Rudd has been looking for. At the first Atlanta race, there was the big one. As many cars wrecked on the front stretch, it almost felt like Atlanta was a 1.5 mile super speedway. It was such a demo derby on the front stretch. Then with 15 to go on a restart, Wally Dallenbach Jr., driving a second Dunlevy car, sent it into turn 3, sending the leader Rick Wilson into the wall, as well as Alan Kowicki, who was second. Wilson then came down right in front of everyone else, creating a pileup, and Greg Sachs getting sent into Kowicki. Wilson was not too pleased with Dallenbach at that point. The race restarted with 10 laps to go as Davey Allison was leading with Mickey Gibbs second and Ricky Rudd in third. Allison held on for all he could until Ricky Rudd passed him with 4 laps to go to get his second win in a row at Atlanta as he goes back-to-back. Meanwhile, more heartache for Davey Allison. He's coming up so close, but just can't seem to get that checkered flag. However, at the 7th race of the season at North Wilkesboro, that all changed. With 2 laps to go, Davey Allison was able to get around Tim Richmond for the lead, and he would finally get his first Cup Series win of his career. So far this season, driving for his father and making this decision to move to his father's team is paying off. In terms of other first-time winners in 1991, Rich Vogler got his first career win at race 9 at Talladega. He made a late charge around Davey Allison and Tim Richmond on the final lap coming down the back straightaway, and the USAC legend got his first Cup Series win at Talladega. Rob Moroso won race 20 at Michigan by just 4 1/1000ths of a second in such a close photo finish, and it was definitely the closest finish of the 1991 Cup season. And then Hutch Strickland won late in the season at Charlotte for Hagan Racing. I apologize for earlier, I did fail to mention that because Terry Labonte is driving for his own team, Hutch Strickland drove the 94 for Billy Hagan in 1991. In terms of other notable winners for 1991, watch this final lap as Dick Trickle won a very exciting all-star race at Texas World Speedway. Junior Johnson's team had a very successful season with Darrell Waltrip and Sterling Marlin both collecting 2 wins on the season. Joe Ruttman, who was driving for a smaller team, also ended up winning the Southern 500 in complete surprise, as well as Lake Speed getting his 3rd career win at the first Pocono race, his first since winning at Nashville in 1989. At the second Talladega race, there was some confusion as some leaders were making green flag pit stops, causing Bubba Nissen to get into Tim Richmond and Bill Elliott. Then Nissen went for a wild ride. Nissen was okay, but the red flag did come out to do some repairs to the catch fence. Jeff Bodine went on to win the race. I will also note that Davey Allison won the Calder Park exhibition, which also featured drivers like Jeff Gordon and Patty Moyes. In the end, there was a record-breaking 22 different winners in the 1991 Cup Series season. Ricky Rudd was dominating the points lead for most of the season. I say most because in the end, there was one driver who ran very consistently when it counted, and he was able to take home the championship. That driver? Davey Allison. That's right, who switched over to his father's team to regain all the confidence he needed. Davey Allison scores the 1991 NASCAR Winston Cup Series championship. Many were surprised, but this was also deemed as a wonderful comeback story as this also takes place a decade after his father scored his first championship, which was at the very start of the Sunday Night Lights timeline. And quickly, I will also show you all the IROC entries, winners, and the champion, in which ended up being Bubba Nissen, surprisingly, getting the 1991 International Race of Champions Championship. And there you have it. 3 more years in the Sunday Night Lights timeline has been covered. And you know what? I know I want to work on divided ending, but the next big video will be another Sunday Night Lights video. And that will cover just 1992. I will not say much, but I will say something huge. is going to happen in this season, in this storyline. So much can happen and so much can change. I know it has been a while to get this out, but I want to make sure that all the information is there as well as the quality. I will have links to the results, the standings, and the cars used in the video. I promise to get back on Divided Ending, but right now, big things are about to happen in SNL. So, stay tuned. Sunday Night Lights 1992 is just around the corner. And with that being said, that'll wrap up this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything like that, feel free to comment down below. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Sonic Rules 831, and I will see you in the next video.